humor really works in nonviolent struggle. You always imagine the revolution as a serious business. If you take a look at the Castro or, Mao Zedong, all of these guys from 60s and 70s, you will see that they are quite serious, Lenin included. And of course, social science will tell you they are serious because they're involved in serious business of the revolution. But when you take a look at the middle of the slide or the TV screen, this is a portrait of a typical 21st century protester, full of colors, walking in a kind of the parade, very cheerful. So examining these things and really digging into the movement, there's this question whether the face of the social revolution is more serious or more smiling. First of all, the people I'm dealing with are dictators. And obviously they want to portray themselves as a really serious people who hold their firm hand over everything. Upper left corner is Milosevic. I just want to put a face on a name that I will be repeating, like this gray bureaucrat looking like just he walked up from a closet of 70s. And when you take a look at the Putin, when you take a look at all of these guys, they really tend to be serious. Unlike that, the people who challenge them tend to be unserious and tend to do, even with a serious business of strategically organizing under dictatorship, either under the worst conditions in the world. I spent my morning talking to the Burmese people who are dying in dozens every day, opposing military junta. The spirit of humor, the spirit of wit is what keeps these movements alive. So passionate about this, we wanted to learn more. And most of our work on this brown medal thing and the work that Sophia will also later outline is looking into this phenomenon, how this wit and the spirit of coolness and the creativity really impact social movement, and what may be the science behind this. Can we give it a name? Can we connect it to numbers? Can we make a data set? Can we make a pattern? So first of all, historically, if you take a look at the struggle starting back from Salt March all the way to the downfall of Soviet Union, the world is full of pranks, and very often people were facing harsh oppression and fear with the pranks. Take a look at the perestroika time where Soviet Union was falling apart. And within the largest prey of Soviet Union, Poland, the great movement of solidarity was trying to get rid of the communism. And just to remind you, solidarity was faced with 1 million Soviet troops, so military struggle was not an option. Now, how do you deal with such a superior and ruthless enemy? Take a look and dig into the history, and there is this very particular group in Polish movement that was doing amazing pranks. One of them, replicated over time with people who were facing state propaganda, was organized in Poland. 7:30 TV news, you have all of this official, boring Bolshevik propaganda on TV. People don't want to watch it. First, they start going on the windows and hitting pots and pans. Then they come to amazing idea to put their TVs in stroller and stroll them for a walk. What a better way to perform when you are faced with a gray state propaganda. Now, this comes with another element that Sophia and I are very passionate about, which is the element of dilemma. You know what you do with angry rioters. Police is trained well to deal with the bulk of hungry people on the street. Well, what do you do with the cheerful crowd that are strolling their own TVs through the neighborhood? You let them go, so you also encourage others to do that, or you arrest them and charge them for walking their TVs and strollers, which is not punishable even by, at the time, Bolshevik laws. So wit, creativity, dilemma has been with us at all times. Of course, Serbs don't read books, we learn by doing. So this was our very politically incorrect idea of how to make Milosevic notice that our movement exists. In summer 1999, we came out with the Milosevic portrait made on a petrol barrel. We brought the petrol barrel into the main pedestrian and shopping zone. The petrol barrel has a hole on the top, so you can really put a coin, and by putting the coin, you bought yourself right to hit Mr. President 3 times with a bat. Of course, now this makes noise. The shoppers come in, they queue, they wait for this. The kids are having fun. Everybody's hitting the poor Mr. President's face. And here we are in a nearby cafe having espressos and observing the situation. But that was not the fun part. Even a lot of people had fun. The fun part was when police arrived. So now what these poor people will do? Arrest us. We are nowhere to be seen. Arrest downtown shoppers, bring them to the police station and charge them with exactly what? Of course, they did the most stupid and the only thing that they could do. They arrested the barrel. Of course, the cameras were there. So now you have the photography of the hatred and fearsome Serbian police dragging the barrel with a distorted face of Mr. President and arresting the barrel. Here we are pressing the low charge against the police. We want our money back. We want our barrel back. And they become the punchline for another prank. Once again, dilemma element. If they let people doing this, it will happen everywhere. If they react to it, they will look stupid. Now, we did a lot of humor and pranks, and as picture says more than 1,000 words, the video says even more, which is where I really would like you to take a look.
Već 10 godina pokušavam da skinem ovu fleku. Verujte mi, sve sam probala. Menjala sam programe, mašine, deterđente i... Sada se pojavila nova mašina. Ona ima odličan program koji pouzdano, sigurno i nepovratno skida ovu i slične mrlje.
Dozvolite mi...
Vidite, deluje. Probajte i uverite se sami.
Demonstracija novog programa glasačke mašine 24. septembra širom zemlje. Konačno, gotov je.
Okay, so here is this guy responsible for 4 civil wars, trial for crimes against the humanity, running serious police force that had blood on their hands, controlling state apparatus, media, being called butcher for Balkans in the West, being sanctioned by UN, being bombed by NATO, and still in power. And there is a bulk of young, crazy kids which are putting him on a petrol barrel or treating him as a machine washable stain. Of course it's cool. So now this outlines the second reason why humor and wit works. They make movements look cool. People love joining cool things. When people are joining, the movement is increasing in number. There is a scientific correlation established by many scientists, recently by Erika Chenoweth and Maria Stefan, which shows the clear connection between the participation and diversity and level of success. The more and more diverse people you have in the movement, the more you're likely to succeed. Nothing attracts people as being cool. And you know this from your private lives. Now, fast forward to this, another very interesting thing which we noticed is that if you do something effectively, if something really works, if something creates dilemma, if something is a successful prank, people tend to replicate it. So from Serbia to Sudan, there was a day in time, I got an email from a friend of mine who worked for a big press bureau in the Middle East. He sent me a link and said, you must have been training these people. I say, what? So I just spotted this amazing Sudanese group and, they must be your offshoot. I said, I never heard of them. But then I clicked the link, went to the YouTube, and this is what I see. Remember the washing machine? Here is the Sudanese version of washing machine.
إذا قرفت ما تزعل عندك صابونة قرفنا. بعد 20 سنة بدون تغيير الموضوع ما هي. عاوز ليه ودايت 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 وعصر 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 وعصر. لكن النتيجة تعجبك. صابونة قرفنا إنتاج محلي من أجل مستقبل السودان.
Okay, you get the idea. Replicability. So if something is cool, if something is working, if something is low risk, if something portrays your opponent as basically thug or an idiot, it's likely to be replicated. So one of the things we were focusing on our research is also the replicability of these things, because if things are replicable, they certainly work and impact other people. Later, Girifna, the organization you've seen in this short movie, became the think tank of the revolution in Sudan in 2019. That was one of the most inspiring changes. And, but early in the process, you can figure out who has a talent, who has the idea. And I think this is one of the reasons why this research really makes sense. You're searching for creativity, you're searching for strategic approach. And when you find a group, it's very likely to be the group which will be on the cutting edge of the change in a certain environment. Of course, 2011, the explosion of social media brings us to the new class of Loftivism, which is, online thing. So this is a little screensaver we borrowed from Egypt. Remember, Egyptian revolution started 19 days after the Tunisian. This is the typical Windows thing, like installing freedom from Egypt to Tunisia. There is a virus. You need to remove virus first. Internet is full of the pranks and dilemma actions. And we're having the whole cluster on online mobilizing and dilemma actions. So as you can see, as we progress through this presentation, you will see how the width progresses, but you also see people rallying around different stuff. We're in offline and online world. Welcome to Putin's Russia. 2012, another rubber stamp elections in Russia. Some people, Putin would win them with 62% probably, but for some reasons, his followers wanted him to win with 80. And in some case with 103% of the votes. So what happened was that they were stuffing ballot boxes, and because this is a 2012, people have smartphones, they taped it, it goes viral, the protest starts on Bolotnaya Square in Moscow. And of course, clever as he is, the Putin leaves people to protest in Moscow and St. Petersburg, but bans protests everywhere else. Well, the small place in Siberia, Barnaul, which I couldn't find on the map, people came to the idea if they can't protest, their toys can. So day one, they come to this village square, they bring their legal soldiers, their little penguins, their cars. Everybody's equipped with a transparent, 146 for Putin, give us free and fair elections. The people are taping. There is an actual footage on Guardian website of that day. And what you will notice if you look at this footage, everybody has fun. There were like 2 policemen and they were taping as well. So, this small place, people love each other. So that was not the big issue. The big issue was once uploaded on YouTube, it got 750,000 views in 6 hours. Well, some of these views were, of course, from Kremlin. Now, these strategists of maintaining status quo were looking at it and say, we need to do something about it, because if people see, they can replicate it, and soon you'll have a wave of toy protests across the country. And then the phone rings, and the poor soul, the chief of Barnaul police, needs to go in front of the cameras and actually ban the toy protest, stating that officially protest of 100 Kinder Surprise people, 100 legal soldiers, 20 model cars is banned because toys are not citizens of Russia. And by constitution, only citizens of Russia can protest. Okay, good job, man. You actually made the most stupid sentence in the history of the law enforcement. Plus you ended up on the cover page with The Guardian. So now you see another effect of this. This is sometimes related to egos. We are talking about Putin. You know this guy who loves to pose shirtless, show his biceps, tame horses, wrestle tigers, dive for amphoras, save dolphins from drowning, and he's afraid of toys. Now you see the outsized effect of the creativity. Takes probably 5 people and $5. Well, you don't need dollars. If you have kids, you have a decent cohort of protesters in your home, toy protesters, to organize this. It takes a platform to make it visible, But then what really makes it internationally visible and what you really put a price tag of it is your opponent's response. So now you see another element of dilemma action is not only that you poke, but you expect the poke to be met with action. And then there is a post-production of this where you're actually capitalizing on police arresting Barrel, capitalizing of chief of the police, banning the toy protests. Even in harsher situations, Syria, 2010, you can find a spitting image type of YouTube videos. Fast forward to last week. This is like these two slides are from last week. One is the wave of Snowman protests. You have the protests in Belarus, which are amazingly creative. We have a cluster of cases from Belarus. And of course, there's this white and red flag, which is banned by the Lukashenko, the last European dictator. And then you have the dozens of snowmen appearing across Minsk, and they're all red and white. And what the police does, they come into people's yards, actually detain people, bring down the snowmen. So you see the level of fear of your opponent. Once again, these actions are effective, and one of the fields that we are looking at is a change of narrative. If you're really such a tough guy running Belarus with iron hand, how in the world could you be worried about the white snowman with a red scarf? That tells a lot about how insecure and weak you actually are. What's happening in Myanmar, put the hashtag on it, and you will get a daily feed of amazingly creative actions happening in Burma, country which, after the gradual opening to democracy and victory of the ruling pro-democracy party, experienced a bloody coup. Just a month ago, well, month and a half ago, the military decided that they don't want to play democracy anymore because they got only 8% on the elections. So they seized the power again. The level of these protests, on these protests, you know, you have a military really killing people, and then people face it with a march of Disney-style princesses. So people come in their Disney costumes. Another group of people come out with strange pets. They come out with lizards, saying the lizard has more brain than the ruling general. They're coming out with pythons, saying this python is 6 feet, which is taller than our top general, the person who is very obsessed with his shortness. So now you see all of these things happening and unfolding en masse. Question for Sophie and me, an amazing team of young people, some of them soon to be graduated from Penn State, like amazing channel in tech, who made this research possible, is there a pattern? Can you really look at this dilemma action and decide what you want to do? Can you take a look at the clusters? Why they sometimes peak, have this peak of Loftivism and dilemma actions in US, ranging from, climate change struggle, women's march struggle, gun control struggle, anti-corporate struggle. So what happens? Why these things boost sometimes, and is there a pattern in it? And also a larger question for Sophia, who spent most of her career watching late night TV shows, which is the coolest thing to do, and trying to figure out what is the role of satire, whether satire makes you more intelligent and things of this exciting kind. So what's the difference? How is Loftivism different than just the political satire? The simple answer is satire is satire. Loftivism is a strategic approach to nonviolent tactics. It contains element of humor, but behind it is strategic planning to put your opponent between the rock and hard place. If they react, they will look stupid. If they don't, they will look weak. And there is no middle ground. There is a price tag for both reacting and not reacting. And my organization, Canvas, which teaches people across the globe how to do this effectively, has a presentation on dilemma actions. And we also noticed the groups that were trained are more likely to produce this type of dilemma actions and Loftivism. And there is a little scheme also embedded and detailedly explained within the pranksters versus autocrats, which is derived from the Canvas core curriculum, which says it's not about the tactic, it's about the topic. So what you're looking at the government's or opponent's policy, which is against the widely held belief. So you have censorship, you have the right to accurate information as a widely held belief, you have all of the pranks related to the media. You have the idea of restricting freedoms of gathering, and then you have people in Belarus gathering on a square, so that you can gather there like 5 people or less. Other than that, it's a rally. So now you have 7 people. But these 7 people are not rallying. They are walking in circle and reading the state's constitution. So if you are the government, what will you do? Let people break ban on 5 people. So if 7 of them can gather, 70 will gather. Or you arrest people for reading state constitution loud in the park, which makes you look completely stupid. So looking into lock accountability, once again, amazing cluster of cases. Pay your attention to the group called the Yes Man. Probably the person on the right is the person who probably is the most creative anti-corporate loftivist I've ever met. His real name is Jacques Sevin. He lives in New York, runs the Yes Lab on NYU. And he came to this idea of a fake recognition. So you have this big Volkswagen scandal. Volkswagen is accused for actually hiding their carbon emissions. And here comes the memo of Volkswagen, where Volkswagen officially apologizes to the consumers and the public in the United States, because last year they sold 35,000 cars, which allegedly were very green, but actually were very polluting. There is only one problem. This is not coming from Volkswagen. This is coming from Yes Man. So now if you're a Volkswagen, what will you do? You have option between bad and worse. You can deny the authenticity of the apologize and look like you're not apologizing. Or you can apologize and thus grant the pranksters victory. So once again, when you take a look at these cases, the book looks into 40, we are around 200 cases now. They're coming from all walks of life. Only part of it is pro-democracy struggle. A lot of this is corporate accountability. A lot of it is about the small things. There's a whole cluster of human creativity about such a simple problem as a pothole. There's probably 16 or 17 cases where people were using dilemma actions and loftivism that we were capable to identify around potholes. Yekaterinburg, Russia, the large potholes and the promise from a mayor that they will be fixed by whatever, April 2012. Well, it's November 2013 and nobody really fixed it. It's October 2015. So what people do, they hire a street artist, they put the mayor's face around the pothole. So what happens when you hit the car into the pothole, you curse. Now you have a person to curse. Great as it is, the Russian government come and remove graffiti, but left the potholes. But then again, that didn't stop cursing. Now you move to another part of the world, Panama City, the fastly developing place with the falling infrastructure. People hate to the technologically advanced idea. They put a little machines, which looks like a hockey packs, which you see in the middle of the slide, into the potholes. What happens is when the car hits this machine, it tweets, and it tweets straight to the mayor account. So what happened is that, it's like, oh, I'm a pothole number 32 at the corner of Columbia and San Miguel Street. And I just heard the card of this wonderful lady, fix me, fix me, fix me. They go to 15,000 tweets a day. What would you do if you're a mayor? Ignore the problem and become a punchline, or fix the potholes and grant people who came with the prank a victory? Of course, low-tech people like in Serbia would plant flowers. We found people in Zimbabwe planting trees into the potholes. We found people making fishing ponds out of the potholes, scaling. If you have a very large pothole, you can make it into fishing pond. We found Brazilian activists who celebrated the birthday of a pothole, just to name some of these amazing cases. So once again, it's not only about democracy, it's about accountability, it's about environment. But it's not only big things, people against the dictator, people against junta, it's also about the small things. So it tends to appear that dilemma actions and Loftivism are on the cutting edge of these movements, and they seem to work regardless of the size or the type of the struggle, which is exactly what we want to prove in this research. Okay, to finish with America's hot topic number one, we all remember what happened on January the 6th. Can you use humor and pranks to fight hate, warmongering, racist groups? The answer is yes. And there is a cluster of cases proving how these groups were challenged effectively. Looking from Finland, where people were having the problem with a Nazi group called Soldiers of Odin, who would go around in their black uniforms and march, supposedly defending the native Finnish people from evil immigrants. Narrative sounds familiar. And of course, they were doing it in immigrant heavy areas to scare these poor souls. Well, instead of attacking them, the liberal activists in Finland came to the idea that they will accompany one of the soldiers of Odin with Lodlers of Odin, which means the clowns of Odin. So now, instead of having social media pictures of a proud people marching in them black uniforms, they look like, you know, they're staged a prank. Everybody's accompanied with a clown. So what they will do, if they ignore clowns, they appear like clowns. If they beat clowns, they appear even worse. So that's one of the cases where you were using pranks about the alt-right. Another one, Wundesdale, Germany, amazing small city up north, pretty liberal by itself, but being very unlucky to be a birthplace of Rudolf Hess, one of the Hitler's top collaborators. So every year at Rudolf Hess' birthday, the army of people in black uniforms from across the Germany come there to march. For years, the local citizens were scared and getting into houses and didn't want to go on the street until somebody came to the idea to turn the Nazi march into the fundraising opportunity. Going to local businesses, getting money for the organization called Exit Germany, which is basically the organization that cures people with extreme ideas psychologically and institutionally. They were capable to mark every 100 meters of march. So by marching every 100 meters, the Nazis were donating 2,500 euros to their main opposing organization. Now, instead of hiding in homes, the people are in the streets and they are cheering Nazis for actually participating in this fundraising. And what the guys will do, they can pick to be used as a fundraising tool for their opposition and, you know, kind of mocked by thousands of people in the town they normally terrorize, or they can cancel the march. So they can decide between lose and lose. So once again, wherever you look, there is a tremendous scope of this dilemma actions. To summarize and get forward, what we figured out, humor breaks fear and apathy. It's a normal human type of behavior. If you are preparing for a major surgery, what you want to do is hear a joke, not to hear how the surgery will go. Also, if you're on a very boring party and somebody really humorous appears, that turns the tables and makes the party really fun. Second, humor makes your movement cool. And people love hanging around the cool people. People love joining the cool thing. So humor increases participation. Humor changes narrative. It can turn the very frightful pillar like the police or very tough guy like Putin into the punchline. They can turn the tough, remorseless hockey player like Lukashenko into the person afraid of Snowman. Humor also tends to really create a situation in which your opponent is put between the rock and a hard place, and sometimes the opponent will react in the most stupid way. Namely, you can use this activity for a secondary action And a lot of these actions get replicated. People in power tend to have a very, well, floated ego, if you want, or a very distorted picture of themselves. They just take themselves too seriously. If you poke them, they're very likely to have a very ballistic response to this, which then can be used for continuous mobilization or turning the tables in the public opinion.